La Pista Magica, the Temple of Speed, or whatever name you want to give it. The Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, shining in beautiful summer sunshine. What better way to increase the it factor by bringing in some big open single-seaters. Welcome everybody live to Monza for the first race of the weekend for the Boss GP Open Series for 2025. My name's Scott Wood. We're ready to guide you through all of the action. We have an excellent 16-car field ready to set off for their first of two races here this weekend. And of course, what a race. Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome to Monza for the first event of two this weekend for the Boss GP Racing Series. Apologies for the small technical difficulties we had there to bring you in the intro. Just one or two glitches that we managed to fix appropriately. Cars are coming off on their formation lap, and of course it's great to be back live once again with Boss GP. This is the championship, as it states in the name, for big open single-seaters. Whether you've got a Formula 1 car, a GP2 car, or a Formula 2 car, in one series by Renault machine, even a Super Lights Formula car, A1 GP, even Champ cars and Indy cars and Super Formulas are able to get into this mix. We'll talk about the classes, the drivers, and the race format as it goes on. We're a little bit delayed, but as we get set for the start, it's going to be Howard Schlegelmilch, the Latvian driver, on pole position in his World Series by Renault car. Alongside him, Simone Colombi in the X-Star GP2 machine, and he will start on the front row alongside. Then it will be Marco Ghiotto and Paul O'Connell on row 2, Michael Fischer and Max Cuccarese, the 18-year-old Italian, in the newest car on the field, the only F218 Dallara F2 chassis on the field. Then Martin Kindler and Walter Stedler, Stefan Glasser and Marco Minelli rounding out the top 10. Stefan Isaac Siebold, Thomas Zeltner, Jean-Christophe Peyra, Walter Colacino, Robert Ruprecht and Henry Klausnitzer rounding out the 16-car grid. 2x2, side by side on the way to the start of race 1 of the weekend, the Boss GP Racing Series. Wait for the noise to explode as it goes green, and we're racing at Monza in Boss GP. It's a strong start from the front row from Simone Colombo as they head down towards the Rettifilio for the first time. Side by side, and Schlegelmills will just get himself across and hold the line, but he goes a little too deep, but it's enough to hold the apex for the second part of the apex. Through the chicane and through they go, and a cracking start for Max Cucurese. He's come from 6th on the grid up to 3rd position already in that F218 Dallara chassis. He's one of the youngest drivers on the grid in the youngest chassis on the grid. He will try and make his way up towards the front of the field. Side by side for the lead as Schlegelmills goes to the inside, holding off Colombo into the Rogier for the first time. And it is the World Series 3.5 V8 car that leads the ex-Dallara GP211 car. Then it's the Dallara F217 machine in there too. 4th place looks like Marco Giotto. And we'll look at the timing screen as they start to flash through. Here they go on the opening lap. Looks like everyone's mind their P's and Q's. Couple of the Super Lights class cars in the field already making their way through the first of the 2 Lesmos. We've got a breakaway quartet at the front. Schlegelmills leads the way. Colombo in 2nd place now. Cucurese trying to go with them in 3rd. And in 4 positions, the front row man Giotto. Down the back straight towards the Parabolica. Back in 5th, it looks as though it's Paul O'Connell, the Irishman. He's coming under threat, looks like, from the 2 drivers that started around him on the 3rd and 4th rows of the grid. And that is a battle going on between Walter Stedding, who's in the GP205 car. And just behind is the ex-Alten Markelov machine of Martin Kindler, who started back on 7th on the grid. End of lap number 1 then. Howell Schlegelmills leads the way. 2nd place for Colombo, and a battle on for 3rd between Cucurese and Giotto. Giotto lining up in the older chassis to the outside line, and off the road has gone what looks to be, that is going to be the Austrian driver Stefan Isaac Siebold. He started back in 11th on the grid, and he's off the road at Parabolica. So I wonder if that might well be a safety car call, because that's in quite a precarious position. End of lap number 1, you can see the class. It is the classes that we have in this championship. There are 4. 1 class not here this weekend, sadly, is the F1 class. They will be back out in the next few rounds. But we do have the Formula class, the Formula Pro class that was added this year for 2025. That's for drivers aged 30 and under, or for drivers with significant experience. And that is mainly a home for GP2 and ex-World Series 3.5 machinery. And then we also have the regular Formula class for drivers that don't qualify for that. That's been pre-existing for a while. As you see, the stranded World Series Dallara 3.5 T12 car. That is Stefan Isaac Siebold, who has come to a rest off the road. And as expected, we'll come back to the rest of the running order, safety car has been deployed. And the other class outside of that is the Super Lights class, and that is for older chassis of World Series by Nissan machines and older F3000 machinery. You've got a couple of those in the mix too. They started in the back couple of rows. Walter Colacino in his 1995, I want to say. Look at the chassis number. I think it was a 1996 Lola T9650 with an Alfa Romeo 3-litre V6 in the back. And also in that class is Henry Klausnitzer and his Tartus Formula Renault V6. And that car painted in the colours of the old Mold 7 Renault Formula 1 team back in the early to mid 2000s. Safety car then is out here at Monza. It gives us a chance to just kind of run through the championship and give us a bit of a breather to explain the championship a little bit. Now, for those who have watched or know this championship before, you'll know this is a legacy of what used to be called the old Euroboss series back in 2020, way back in 1995, this championship started. And it then morphed into Boss GP, and it has done and kept this way all the way through. This is its 31st season, Boss GP. But of course, back in the 90s, you had lots of very recent ex-F1 cars competing in the championship. And looking back at the history of it, this is its 31st season. It was founded in the UK, so where I'm from, but now is organised by an Austrian collective. It's a great collection of some of the fastest kind of single-seaters, whether they be Formula 1 cars or GP2, F2, Formula 3000, World Series by Renault, World Series by Nissan cars. We see a couple of those turn up occasionally. Even Champ cars, Indy cars, Super League Formula. If you remember those, the V12 single-seaters with the Paynos chassis. You also have as well, you can run Super Formula cars in this championship. As well, on top of that, you can run Auto GP. We have an Auto GP car on the field this weekend. Those cars started out being, of course, the original Lola A1 GP chassis. And, of course, the Ferrari-inspired and engined later A1 GP cars eligible. You've also got the Formula Acceleration 1 cars, which are also based on the original A1 GP machines. So lots of different single-seaters can compete in this championship and have done. And you only have to look back at the history of the championship to see some names who are quite familiar to those. You might know them a name or two in the history of the championship from those who have raced before. I mean, if I reel off names such as Klaus Svart and Nigel Greensall and Scott Mansell competed in this championship, they've made it a home for themselves. Klaus Svart was one of the regular drivers in this championship. Originally, he was racing those beautiful silver-coloured Judd V10 engine Benettons for the Ascari team. It looked very much like the Pacifics from 1994, which had a very similar design. And then in more later seasons, he's been competing in a rather lovely Jaguar R5 Cosworth from the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. And he's even championed as recent as 2012 in this one. 2015, in fact, actually going forwards. As we see the Lara T12 World Series car of Stefan Eisinger-Sievold dragged away by the snatch vehicle. Big thanks to all of our marshals and all thanks to our recovery team for doing such a fantastic job. And as that car gets pulled away, which has got, you can see a very distinct kind of real retro 90s Williams style Rothmans livery, even complete with Rothmans overalls. But a rather dejected Stefan Eisinger-Sievold trudges away, and the Red Rose Racing Squad will have to go away and put that car. I don't think it's had any damage, whether it's hit a barrier or a wall anywhere, but it looks as though it'll need to be scraped out of all the gravel that's got underneath that car, and then get it ready for race 2, which happens tomorrow. So safety car continues to lead the field around. To give you an insight as to how the season's gone so far in terms of the championship, as I mentioned, no F1 class cars here this weekend, but in that, for the record, Ulf Eininger in the ESBA run 1997 Benetton B197. He has taken 2 second places and 2 class victories in the previous 2 rounds at Hockenheim and Nürburgring. He leads with 98 points compared to Ingo Gerstel, who is a multiple-time champion in this championship for Team Top Speed. He drives a 2006 Toro Rosso STR1, which is the last F1 car to race properly with a V10 engine in Formula 1. It had that rev-limited Cosworth V10, which raced in 2006 when Toro Rosso, when they were bought over the winter by Red Bull. It was Minardi, the team was bought by Red Bull over the winter. It ran out of time to really find a proper V8 engine, so they had a special dispensation from the FIA to run the V10, but at rev limited, so that it wasn't going to be at too much of an advantage. So that car currently has been with him for several seasons. That's currently second. And then I'm pleasantly surprised to see in third place in the championship, Thomas Jakubek, who is for Team Top Speed. And he's got arguably the second youngest car in the field, one of the youngest F1 car on the field for a while. That's the Lotus T127 in this championship. That is the 2010 Lotus F1 car. So it's the cars going into the V8 era, into the kind of taller wings, rear wings, and wider front wings, which you see the GP211 Dallara chassis is very inspired by. You can see there, just in second and fourth position, we've got both Colombo and Giotto have got those 2 machines. And he's currently in third place with 42 points. There are 3 classes that are here. We'll go through the points for them. Paul O'Connell, the Irishman, who's a multiple-time hill climb and sprint champion, and also been a competitor in the Irish Formula Boss Championship in this Dallara World Series 3.5 car, which is painted up like one of the Toro Rosso liveries, one of the best-looking Toro Rosso liveries, the blue and the red with the silver. And that car, he currently leads the way with 104 points. With Stefan Eisinger-Sievold, who was second going into this weekend with 82, but he will score nothing from this race after the retirement. Then it's Martin Kindler in the Jensen Motorsport car. Jensen Motorsport very well versed in single-seaters at junior level, including at one point World Series 3.5 and similar level cars. He's currently third, only 2 points ahead of Andreas Feidler, who is not here this weekend. His 2008, his GP208 chassis. Marco Minelli fifth from Stefan Glasner, then Jens Renstrup and Eric Zek. In the Formula Pro class, it's Harold Schlegelmills, who is currently leading the race as we're about to get restarted once again here at Monza with just under 13 minutes to go. Leads the class as he gets the restart underway with 101 points, with Simone Colombo in second, 95. So these 2 are battling for the overall win, as well as the Formula Pro class leading the points and the race. And in the Super Lights class, it's Stefan Schow, who's not here this weekend. So a real chance for Henry Klausnitzer to get himself up into the top of the table. Green flag, and we're back racing again in the Boss GP Racing Series at Monza, and immediately you can see Harold Schlegelmills is not comfortable holding in the slipstream doesn't want to give the toe to Colombo here, and that's the big reason, because Colombo goes diving down the outside, but he snatches a break. Did he skip over the chicane? The answer is yes. He goes through the runoff area. You can't skip straight over the grass, and even if he gets out in front, he will have to give that place back. Otherwise, he'll cop a penalty. So he has to try and slot back in as best he can. And that will certainly give Schlegel Mills the lead once again. Kukurezi came across the line still in third. In fact, he's now second place because the mishap there for Colombo has lost him a couple of places in the mix. So he's trying to go for the lead. He's only lost him one spot down to third. Kukurezi now up to second place. And this will now put Colombo under threat from Marco Giotto in the Scuderia Paledo run machine. That car, in fact, fun fact for Marco Giotto, is actually the ex-Charles Leclerc F2 car. That's quite a piece of history for that machine, and that car being put to good use by Marco Giotto. As far as I'm aware, with that surname Giotto, for anyone that might be wondering in the live stream or watching, I don't believe he's related to Luca Giotto. I did look up this one, and Luca's father's name was Franco Giotto, so I don't think there's a relation there, but quite nice to have an ex kind of GP2 F2, the surname of one, racing an ex-Charles Leclerc F2 machine. Paul O'Connell in fifth in that top of the Formula class cars on the HS Engineering Dallara T12. I almost feel bad for talking because this is, apart from the F1 cars, this field is full of Zytec 3.5 litre V8s and Mechachrome 4 litre V8s. It's a fantastic, two of the best sounding engines out there because they make such a fantastic noise. Case in point as they come down the pit straight. Of course, you've also got the F218 machine with the V6, the 3.5 litre V6 with the Mechachrome engine. Oh, that was Colombo looking up the inside, and he had to really stand on the brakes to avoid getting into the back of Max Kukurezi into the braking zone for the Rettifilio. And that now puts him back under threat from Giotto behind in fourth position. So it's still Formula Pro cars at the front of the field, but Schlegel Mills is taking full advantage here of the mishaps behind. He's just over 3.3 seconds to the good as he heads out of the Rogier chicane, hops over the curb, and now sprints towards the first of these double right-handers at the Lesmos. And Howard Schlegel Mills, who is 38 years old, but he's done so much in his racing career. I was doing some research earlier on last night and this morning, and he's done so much different racing. He has been a class champion in this championship before. He won the Open class back in 2022. He was runner-up last year to Antonio Pizzoni in the Open class. This is his fifth season in Boss GP, and he's also raced so much. He's raced several seasons of Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but he's also done that GT Masters. He did FIA F2, which was the smaller single-seaters with the Audi engines in the back, not the renamed GP2 machines. It's back in 2008. He's done FIA F3 Europe, Porsche Carrera Cup Germany, International Formula Masters, Formula Atlantic, the GP2 Asia, so he's familiar to these power level and spec of cars, and he was Formula 3 Austria and Recaro Formula 3 trophy champion in 2006, and also the Formula BMW. So he's been, apart from F1, just about every single step of the single-seater ladder. So he knows these cars quite intimately and trying to make an impact as quick as possible. Across the line he goes for another lap. 5 seconds to the good now, but it's the battle for second place that's shaping up. And here comes a recurring Colombo back down the inside for the third time. And this time, not only does he get the car stopped, but he does manage to make the move stick on Kukurezi. So that is now Colombo up into second place once again. Kukurezi down to third, and Marco Giotto holding station in fourth. And of course, all three of these drivers in the mix, Kukurezi, Colombo and Giotto, are all Italians. So these will be the three drivers, I'm sure, at least that the home crowd here at Monza will be cheering on, putting on a good show here. This is a good also speed comparison between the two most recent grandfathered GP2 spec, F2 spec chassis, because you can see you've got the GP211 car, but lasted all the way until 2018 when they brought this new spec of car in. They only just replaced it with this new spec of car in the last couple of seasons. And it's great that we've got the first F2 car with a halo, of course. So you can see it there, Max Kukurezi's car, and they're looking pretty good. That's now Giotto there popping out to have a look into Ascari chicane as they turn the way out of this left, right, left, and onto that iconic run down the back straight towards the Parabolica. It's also known as what's been named in recent years after Michele Alboreto, but I'm certain many racing fans will still and forever know it as Parabolica for being such an iconic corner. Italian trio turns its way out of Parabolica, back onto the main straight, and the lead's gone out by another, well, at least 1.1 seconds, because at the last split it was 6.2 seconds. It's now up to 6.8. So Howard Schlegel Mills is absolutely flying out here at the moment. He's leaving these three to battle amongst each other. Giotto swarming around the back end of Kukurezi, having a look to the outside line That was Sorelli Colombo style. But again, has to sit back and wait for his opportunity because they're all in the toe of each other. Because Colombo will be dragging Cucurese around, and Cucurese will be dragging Giotto around for third and fourth. Quick check in with the rest of the classes. In the Formula class, still Paul O'Connell who leads the way, and he's trying to chase after the cars in front of him because he at the moment is fifth and is about roughly 3.4 seconds behind this trio, battling over second, third, and fourth. They're not in the same class as him. You can see just in the background there, the Dallara T12, the second of those in the field as he comes into the right-hander. Then sixth place now is the GP211 Dallara chassis. That is Kindler, Martin Kindler from Switzerland in the Jensen Motorsport run machine. That car, I believe, is the XR10 Markelov car from when he used to race before. And that's a battle for a third place in that class is Stefan Glasser, who was last year's Superlights champion, moved up to the Formula class this year. He dominated last year's Superlights class in his Dallara World Series V6 car. He's also raced in a few different kind of historical junior single-seater championships, the Formula Light Cup, the Drexel F3 Cup, the F2000 Formula Trophy, and the Formula Renault 2-litre Pokal. Currently holding station there. And also we've got a battle going on there just between one of the two Superlights cars, and that's between Walter Colacino in the Alfa Romeo-powered V6 car and Henry Klausnitzer in his World Series car. Battle on for third position at the moment between Giotto and Cucurese, and Giotto tries to get it stopped, look to the inside line, has to skip in front of a rather bemused Henry Klausnitzer, and Cucurese almost went into the back of Klausnitzer there, very, very careful not to make contact. He did, in fact, there it is. There's damage to the back of Klausnitzer's World Series car, and that car's got its rear wing torn off, and I think it was simply a consequence of Colombo getting boxed in, or Giotto getting boxed in behind himself. He locked up, tried to come back onto the circuit, and as he rejoined, Klausnitzer had to check up not to get in the way of Giotto, and actually, in fact, put himself in the wake of Cucurese. There's Walter Colacino who moves out of the way. Now, looks like Cucurese's car, I think, has got away with it because it's got quite a long nose. So if he has made contact, I'd like to think it's only damaged the nose of that car rather than the front wing. He's holding station with Colombo at this point. It's now allowing Giotto, in fact, because Colombo's got himself in front. Giotto and Colombo from the front look very similar. So forgive me if I'm mixing up the two. But Colombo now 8.7 seconds behind the race leader. Still Harold Schlegel-Mills. Colombo second, Giotto third, Cucurese survives in fourth, but he might come under threat soon from the blue and red Dallara T12 World Series car, and that is Paul O'Connell who leads the way in the Formula class, and he hasn't got too much of a gap to Martin Kindler behind him. Kindler's only about, 2.6 seconds behind, looking at the timing screen. I think there's an option there that if O'Connell gets caught up behind the cars in front, he might lose time to Kindler behind, and that will certainly bring him into play. Back into the Rettifilio now for another lap. This is the 10th lap of the race. And that is O'Connell having a little sneaky look up the inside. He's just putting himself into Cucurese's mirrors. I think Cucurese's pace has taken a slight knock after that contact with the Tartus World Series car of Henry Klausnitzer, who has stopped on circuit. There is a yellow flag out, which suggests that he stopped around this area. He might would have pulled off to the side or even to the runoff area just here at the Rogier. Through the chicane. This is now a good test here. F218 Dallara chassis versus two Dallara. Lots of Dallara chassis in this championship. Dallara left a big imprint on kind of high-level junior single-seater racing, the stepping stones to Formula 1. Lots of Formula 2 and GP2 cars out there which still exist. Good selection of them in this championship, but also, of course, they made chassis a lot for the World Series cars when they took over from Tartus. There is Paul O'Connell, and that is Walter Colacino. So neither of the Superlights class cars will be classified because the Italian in the 1996 Lola is off the road with a mechanical issue. So out. And Henry Klausnitzer, of course, we lost him through no fault of his own, given that he was hit up the back by Max Cucurese up at the Rettifilio chicane. So at this point in time, essentially no scorers are going to be in the Superlights category. There is Colacino's Lola F3000 car. Doesn't have the original engine as far as I know, because they usually ran Zytec engines before, whereas now that car runs an Alfa Romeo 3-litre V6, and it has done for several seasons because Colacino, quite a veteran of Boss GP and Euro Boss competition, So sadly, neither of those cars will score points. Also in the pits, we've lost Walter Stedding as well. His car is in the pit lane. Walter, who is in the black Dallara GP205. That's the first GP2 car that was brought in after it took over from F3000. That car run by Scuderia Palladio. He's finished a best of third in the standings in the Formula category in 2020. So sadly, Walter Stedding won't get a good run either. So 4 cars have hit problems. Now, is there going to be a late change here overall for 4th position? It won't change any class results because Paul O'Connell is not in the Formula Pro class. He's in the regular Formula class. But Cucuresi's car hasn't really been the same. It's there. And that's actually what it was. Second place, Martin Kindler. So his car stopped at the Parabolica. And he was running second in the Formula class. But that car has pulled over with more drama. So there's 2 cars that have pulled off. There's Colaccino's car stuck into the entrance of the Ascari chicane. And then we've had another car go off at Parabolica that's paused, and that's Martin Kindler's car. And that's right on the edge of the circuit. So I don't think it'll finish under safety car. They might just cover that with double wave yellows, because that will mean they don't have to run it under the safety car and finish with a bit of an anticlimax. It will mean that both Paul O'Connell and Max Cucuresi have to back off. No, red flag, race has been stopped. And that will be a declared result also, because there's barely any time to do another lap. And it's not the way we want to see a race end, but given the fact we have got 2 cars stranded in the 3rd sector, it will mean that there have to be a bit of a recovery before the next race coming up, which is the Euro Cup 3 race. And Martin Kindler will lose out on points there as well. So no point scorers in Super Lights, and neither will there be any points in the Martin Kindler. And Kindler had been 3rd in the points. So this will be a big boost for Paul O'Connell, because his 2 closest rivals in the championship in the standings, who are 2nd and 3rd, are not going to score points. In fact, the highest placed point scorer is going to be Marco Minelli in terms of where they are in the standings to him, because he scored 9th place, and also Stefan Glaser has outscored Minelli as well. So that's going to get quite close for what should be 2nd or 3rd in the standings. If we look here at some of the highlights of the first race, this was under the safety car when they went around either at the start. This is at the start of the race. This was at the restart here when Schlegel Mills pushed his way to the front and continued to hold the advantage. And it looks as though he had that early pressure on the restart from Colombo, who tried going down the outside, tried to turn in, and Schlegel Mills to his inside, locked up the outside front and skipped over the chicane. And he lost places to both Schlegel Mills again, but also Cucuresi. And then there was the battle going on between 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, because Colombo, Giotto, and Cucuresi were all together. Cucuresi had the advantage. The battle continued on, and there was an awkward moment down at the Rettifilia, at the Roger chicane, where we saw Cucuresi hit the back of the Klausnitzer Tartus Formula Renault chassis, and fortunately see him out of the race. But at the end of that race, we'll give you the results of it, at least, as we see these small highlights from here. It's Howard Schlegelmilch, who is set to be declared the winner as a result of that. He wins by 10 seconds at the red flag from the 2nd place man of Simone Colombo in 2nd place, then Marco Giotto 3rd. That's Cucuresi, despite the contact with the Tartus Formula Renault car of Henry Klausnitzer, will finish 4th overall and 4th in the class. 5th, and the Formula class win will go to Paul O'Connell, the Irishman, who will extend his lead in the Formula class. 6th for Michael Fisher, who's in the 2nd of those Red Rose racing cars in Formula Pro. He's 6th and 5th in the class. Thomas Zeltzner in the Scuderia Palladio car, which is the silver and pink Dallara GP211. He was 7th. 8th, and the 2nd place finish in Formula class will go to Stefan Glasner, and he was in the Scuderia Palladio Dallara GP2 machine. 9th will go to Marco Minelli in his AM Sport System Dallara T12 World Series car. And rounding out the top 10, a very quiet race with Jean-Christophe Peyrat in the Seoul Auto GP machine for Zigzag. That finished 10th. Then we had in 11th place, we had the Austrian driver, which was Roland Ruprechter, who's been a veteran of races for more than 40 years. His Dallara GP205 chassis was 11th. And then the last finish we would have had was Martin Kindler in 12th. You also lost the 2 Superlights cars of Walter Colaccino and Henry Klausnitzer. You also lost in the pit lane Walter Stedding in his GP205 car. And this car also went off early to cause the first 2 safety cars. That was the Stefan Eisinger Seevold car run by Red Rose Racing being carried off back to the pits. And of course, that car will go back as will everyone else get ready for race number 2 tomorrow. Well, while those cars have been recovered, of course, we will get set for our next on-track action here. But for those watching on the Boss GP stream, thank you much for watching. It's been great to bring you the Boss GP coverage live here from Monza to show this championship. I think the last time we had a live stream on this channel was back in 2020 at Assen. So great to see we've got Boss GP back in the mix. For those of you watching, thank you very much. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and follow us on social media. Join us tomorrow afternoon when race 2 will take place at Boss GP here at Monza. But a victory overall for Howard Schlegel-Mills in his HS Engineering are at T12 Chassis. Can he make it 2 from 2? Join us tomorrow to find out. But more of us here at Monza for Boss GP. It's goodbye for now.